All right. Good evening. I'd like to call this this board meeting to order, please, on Tuesday, August the 6th at 2019. If you wish to speak during a hearing of citizens, please pick up a card in the back of the chambers, put your name and topic clearly, return the card to the board assistant, Kathy Tompkins, and at the appropriate time, I will call you to speak. Would you please stand and join me in the salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dr. Bowden, would you like to give a report? Or rather still, do you have a report to give?
Yes, ma'am. I guess first and foremost, we got our teachers back on Monday. I had the opportunity to meet with the Emma E staff. They started their day Monday morning at USF. Had a chance to speak with them. Very, very positive meeting. They're excited about the year ahead. We have put some additional resources at Emma. The state has provided some additional funding. I do want to let you know that we have contracted with Linda Daniels to provide some additional administrative support, as well as some additional instructional units as instructional coaches and resources at that site. So we're excited about Emma and the year ahead. About, let's see, 3:30, 4 o'clock today, I sent you an email related to Oak Park, just addressing some questions that are still outstanding there. I won't read that email to you, but for the public that's here, just want to go over some of the highlights of that. The first is related to the CPI training, the Crisis Prevention Intervention. I'd been asked the number of instructors at Oak Park who've received CPI training. Currently, 46 of the 72 instructors at Oak Park have received that. Not all of those instructors require that training based on the students that they've interacted with, but the principal has set a goal for this year to have all instructors trained on CPI. Related to the classified staff, the number is 66 out of 81. We've trained 17 substitutes, and all 3 of our administrators have received CPI training. There's been a question about how CPI training is delivered, and since March, we've had 8 CPI trainings. Those that have taken place in the summer and after hours, we have compensated our teachers and classified staff for their time. We've had 21 instructors, 26 classified, and 10 substitutes go outside of their duty day, and for that time, we have compensated them. Plans are in place to continue training with the goal of training all of the Oak Park teachers, classified staff, and long-term subs. We're also working with transportation to make sure that their drivers in attendance have received training. In regards to staffing, we've adjusted staffing at Oak Park to include 3 additional behavior technicians, a mental health therapist, and a board-certified behavior analyst. And we've also added a member to the security team. The principal is working to schedule monthly interactions with parents, a coffee, and very significantly, I want you to know that we have reassigned Oak Park School to Steve Cantis. He had responsibility for Oak Park until 2 years ago, has a great history with that school, and we think that's a positive development. Ms. Sonia Figueredo-Alberts will continue to support Oak Park in her role as Executive Director of Pupil Support, so she'll still be actively involved. Had a request for information regarding the number of substitutes. It's been reported in a number of forums that on a daily basis there are 30, 40 substitutes on the campus of Oak Park. I want you to know that the great majority of those subs are there in place of paraprofessionals, and I've broken that down for you by pay period. In regards to the cafeteria, which there seems to be quite a bit of misinformation, teachers have the autonomy to decide whether their classes, it's appropriate for them to go to the cafeteria. Teachers who elect to have lunch in their classrooms are provided an alternate 30-minute duty-free lunch. There are no bells at Oak Park. I have seen in a number of forums that there are bells or bells were planned or contemplated. There were no bells in 1819. There will be no bells in 1920. There is a schedule, but there is not bells that ring audibly on the campus. As far as the decision as to whether it's appropriate for students to change classes, that's made at the team level. Oak Park is organized into a number of teams based on exceptionality, and the decision is made at the team level whether changing classes is appropriate. Finally, just want to speak to the kitchen appliances. There were a number of kitchen appliances that have been removed from Oak Park, but there are still classrooms with fully equipped kitchens that are used to teach life skills on that campus. Last, just want to let you know that we have reserved an hour on the August 20th agenda to discuss Oak Park. They have quite an extensive plan. It's 61 pages. It was made by an outside behavior analyst consultant. I'm excited to get that plan in front of you and get your feedback, but they are ready to go on August 12th. But we'll have them here at a workshop. In addition to hearing from Emma E., you'll hear from Oak Park, and then the committee that we organized around the increase in workers' comp claims will be providing a report. I want to pause there to see if you have any questions. I do have a couple other items under Superintendent's report.
Bridget?
Thank you. I'll be brief because I know we're having a follow-up meeting, but 2 questions, and let me know if we're going into this in more detail on the 20th, August 20th at our workshop. But crisis prevention, CPI training, I know that in my brief understanding of it, for as far as training for de-escalation, it includes both verbal and rules of engagement from a physical standpoint. Is that something that's being trained in, at various levels, or is that something we can speak to in more depth on the 20th?
Certainly, and we're happy to outline. There are actually 2 CPI courses. There's a 6-hour intermediate or a beginning one, and then there's a 3-hour advanced. I would describe the 3-hour advanced as much more physical in regards to the training in regards to the appropriate use of restraints and actually modeling and practicing those restraints.
And that's an ongoing training?
That is correct.
Okay. And then the one other thing, and again, if it's addressed in more depth on the 20th, so we have more allowance for time. One thing that I heard you mention was changing of schedules was determined at the team levels. I've just also heard concerns about grouping changes as far as how students have been grouped and whether or not there have been changes over a course of time. So if that's something that can also be addressed or articulated in more detail to that. I don't know if you want to speak to it now again, or if we want to wait till the 20th.
Let's save that for the 20th, but I'll make sure that the principal is prepared to adjust that in detail for you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes, thank you. I'm glad to have this because I wanted to know an update on where we were. I look forward to the information on the 20th. I unfortunately will not be there. I'll be recuperating from a surgery on the 19th that I couldn't schedule later because of other issues. But hopefully I'll be able to watch it live. If not live, I'll be able to watch it online. One of the things that came up in a discussion with you, and I think, or maybe it was at one of the trainings we had down at Pineview, the state examination. Did you say that because there's people that have said, well, we should have an outside agency come in and look at this, but didn't the state come in and review operations at Oak Park recently?
I'm not aware of that.
Well, I thought you said they came and the listing that they gave us, they only meets qualifications or something like that.
IDEA compliance.
That was IDEA compliance of the district as a whole, which would include our operations at Oak Park.
Okay, thank you. So I appreciate that very much and look forward to this. I know that several of us attended an ESE training down at Pineview with a lot of staff. It was specifically, I think, for literacy, dyslexia, English as a second language, and I was able to talk to a lot of parents, not parents, staff, teachers, and other staff at that, and I was happy to see the positive attitude that was coming out of that, and the ongoing training that you get, and I appreciate that we offer those kinds of training to our staff, because it's not just the behavior issues that we have at Oak Park, but there's other exceptional students that we need to address, and I know that we've got ongoing training all year long, not only for teachers and staff, but also for our administrators are getting this trainings too.
Absolutely.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Robinson?
I agree because we're brief for time, but I would kind of piggyback what Ms. Ziegler said, but just expand a little bit. I'm concerned when people come up and they talk about whether physically fragile or medically fragile children being placed in the same room with kids who have emotional issues, who don't have physical and medical fragile, and them being able to prey physically upon those kids who we saw in the wheelchairs, for them having to be in close proximity or be in the same classroom. I would definitely like to see how you're addressing that issue.
Sure.
And I'm happy that you're going to be talking to parents and teachers, because when it's the parents and teachers coming to me, not just one group or the other, but both simultaneously, that gives me, that adds more weight and concern to the issue.
Thank you for that reminder. I had an opportunity to welcome the Oak Park staff back on Monday morning. Had a chance to speak with them. I will be on campus on Friday for Meet the Teacher from 2 to 4. I've told the faculty that I will be arriving, and from 12 to 2 I'll be available to them. If any of them did not feel comfortable interacting with me in the media center, that I was happy to set one-on-one appointments with them. I've not received any requests yet from faculty at Oak Park to meet individually, but if I do, I'm happy to meet with them in their classrooms separately.
Okay. Is that it for you?
That's it on this topic. I have a couple of the real quick things under Superintendent's report.
Go ahead.
Want to remind you that this Friday, the 9th at 9:30, in the Suncoast Technical College Conference Center, we will be swearing in 30 school resource officers, sergeants, and lieutenants, and that will complete the implementation of our police department. We will have an officer at every elementary, middle, and 2 at every high school for the opening of school on August 12th. And hot off the press, I don't know that any of you have seen this yet, but I received an email from Stephen Covert prior to coming into this meeting regarding Pineview's national ranking from niche.com. So I want to end on a positive note. Pineview School is rated as the #1 elementary school in the state of Florida out of 2,172 elementary schools, rated as the #1 middle school in the state of Florida out of 962, and rated as the #1 high school out of 656. On a national ranking, they are the #1 public elementary school in the country, #5 in middle school, and #38 according to niche.com at the high school level. So great news from Pineview. I know Dr. Covert and his staff are extremely proud of their rankings. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you. We will now move on to hearing of citizens. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. When the timer flashes yellow, 1 minute remains, and you need to begin summarizing. You must stop speaking when the buzzer rings. Please note that respect for divergent viewpoints and civility will be shown at every board meeting. Whether you agree or disagree with the speaker, you should listen politely and respectfully without making any sounds of approval or disapproval, including clapping. Per state statute, anyone causing a disruption will first be given a warning, and if the conduct does not stop, will be removed from the chambers. We will begin with Stefan Wise.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today, board members. I can't tell you how excited I am to hear that Oak Park's actually being mentioned in a positive light, and I look forward to strides with that. But I also look forward to when board members who said they've met with parents actually do, because I want to see that happen, and that hasn't happened. Okay, but what I'd like to recognize is local coach, local hero, Venice Challenger baseball coach, founder Rich Carroll, who deals with disabilities. Rich is an award-winning coach. Man, you guys could learn something from him. That guy has done more for this county than the half of you on the school board. So I'm not trying to turn this negative. You all should be helping him build not one field of dreams. You should be building a park right in front of a school that you've got 5 acres. But I guess it takes enough poking for you guys to wake up and see the things that you have as an opportunity. I find it amazing that you hear all these great things about Pineview. I had a son that graduated from there. He blew through college in 3 years, so they must be doing something right over there. But I also want to see you up here also acknowledging Oak Park as the #1 elementary school, #1 middle school, #1 high school for kids with disabilities. And it seems somewhere you got off that path, not you as individuals, but as a school board members over the last 5 years. I hope you can get back on that path and realize that you have two opposite ends of the spectrum. Balance it out. Make the middle move. But right now, the end that's not moving at all is Oak Park. And I've heard a lot of dissension. I've heard you talk badly to each other up there. So it's no wonder you say bad things about teachers, parents. Elementary school teachers was one of the quotes last week from one of your board members. It's amazing that you can speak in the press, but you don't have the wherewithal to speak to each other in a calm and a thought-out manner to make things happen. So I look forward to the superintendent as he brings these things up at Oak Park. But also on your agenda is something for funding for in-stride therapy. I don't know if any of you know anything about in-stride therapy, but I think $15,000 is a joke to give them. In my estimation, you should be giving them 10 times that much, but you should at least look at it right now and double it to $30,000. Because I have a child with cerebral palsy that speaks, would sit up here and talk to you. He can eat regular food because of in-stride therapy. Not this particular branch, but he started at a very young age around these animals and the type of therapy that's involved. I don't think any of you realize the capabilities of a child when they're on a horse and what it develops internally as well as emotionally, and how they're going to deal with the rest of society as it comes out, whether they're on the autism spectrum or with cerebral palsy. I've seen great things come from it. So I find it ridiculous that it shows $15,000 we're going to throw them a little bone. On a $487 million, I think, school board budget this year, $15,000? They should have a barn out there. Every one of those kids should have the opportunity to get on a horse or be around it to understand and come out of their shadows. Finally, it's good to see you're finally supporting your principal out there, but you need to support the parents that are supporting that principal as well.
Thank you. Next is Martin Hyde.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Martin Hyde. Interesting that the board chair mysteriously not here after I advertised that I'd be coming. Go figure. The statements made by the chair last week about public comments were disturbing. The assertions made by Mrs. Goodwin are in direct contradiction of both federal and state laws. Her pronouncement also refutes the words of James Madison, who famously said that censorial power is in the people and not in the government over the people. The attempt by Mrs. Goodwin to impose a local version of the Sedition Act of 1798 was, to my mind, egregious towards all citizens and worthy of a public response. That it was stated as policy is certainly true, as it's become her clear policy in recent times, and others within this institution, to goose-step over anyone who dares to push back against decrees from our school Politburo. This was clearly evidenced by the school police being sent to the home of Drew Peters a few months ago, who dared to comment in a manner that the superintendent didn't like. Mr. Bowden's urgent actions and attention to detail on that matter make somewhat laughable his assertion that he didn't know the details or extent of the allegations against his trusty lieutenant, Mr. Maltsby, when his contract was renewed. But I digress. When a parent of a disabled and wheelchair-bound student wants to speak to concerns of safety for their child, one might assume you'd be all ears. But the chair not only considered his comments defamatory, but literally misheard them, as proven by the tape. Auditory disturbances of this nature would frankly be worrying to most, except I don't think it was physiological so much as psychological, as I believe she heard what she expected to hear versus what was actually said. The school board attorney has rightly pointed out that the bar is much higher for public officials in terms of defamation than for private citizens. He clarified that commentators would not only need to be speaking untruthfully, but know that they were too. By definition, truth is an absolute defense to any claim of defamation, slander, or libel. The First Amendment is the first because it's the most important. James Madison and our founding fathers realized why many had come to America, which was to escape tyranny and oppression. In 1867, John Stuart Mill said, "Bad men need nothing more to compass their ends than that good men look on and do nothing." I call upon the good men and women of Sarasota to stand firm against any attempt by the board chair to impose her form of martial law on this body, and to let her know at every opportunity that she serves us and not the other way around. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hyde. Next is, there's a little David Watnam. Did I get your name right? Because Watnam, I was right. Yeah, thank you.
Are you going to announce why Jane isn't here?
Oh, excuse me a minute. Hold on a minute. I should have announced this when I came in, but I was so trying to figure out what computer I was at. Jane, our chair, Mrs. Goodwin, is not here tonight because she had surgery, and she'll be back in the next meeting, but that's why she's absent today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board.
Yeah, she's here by phone.
I'm here tonight to request that the charter bus bid number 19-0231 be reopened on the basis of lack of review of each bus company's safety programs and policies. We believe that the lack of verification of these safety policies and programs leaves the county with a great deal of liability in regard to the safety of its students and employees. Surrounding counties around Sarasota all require extensive details be included with bids relating to driver's requirements, safety policies, procedures, as well as emergency and maintenance policies. The safety items that we have listed on the handouts that I have provided for you were not part of the Sarasota County School Board charter bus bid. By not verifying that these policies are in place with any vendor that operates a motor coach in Sarasota County, you are blatantly ignoring the safety of your students. We want to alert you to the legal counsel that the lack of concern Sarasota County School Board placed on the area of risk and the amount of emphasis that all the surrounding counties place on each one of these items when evaluating vendors. The cancellation policy was a simple fix with the Hillsborough County School Board. However, we are shocked that the Sarasota School Board is more focused on the cancellation fee than the safety of its students. The information we have provided to you this evening shows the need for a safety meeting with vendors prior to the bid, which was not done on the Sarasota bid 190231. It is obvious that every 10 plus years is way too long to discuss safety concerns with your charter bus vendors when the safety of your school children are at stake. Just to go over a few, no proof of being a safe and compliant bus company, no proof of DOT status, no proof of operating as a Florida business, no proof of tax ID, no history of the company or its owners, no proof of driver requirements, they haven't been vetted by Homeland Security, no pictures or badges, criminal background check, driver's drug, alcohol testing program in place, driver road testing procedures, on-road safety check procedures, driver's physical policy, driver classroom training, state of Florida motor vehicle and policy of checking annually, no information on driver's experience, type of years, no information on total number of drivers, no new information on each bus company, new hire training, operation and road testing, passenger safety training, online safety courses, safety education brochures and manuals, in-service driver training, No information was requested.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Leslie Bowers?
Good evening, board members. I'm here to address the current charter bus bid. There's a lot of safety concerns that it brings up over, about the children. It would be best to reopen the bid to address these safety concerns. The current bid does not go through driver responsibility during emergency procedures, evacuation of the vehicle of the emergency, situations, bus companies' responsibility during emergency situations. It does not go on about any of the maintenance requirements for the charter buses, DOT inspection logs. None of that is brought up in the current bid. And if we can reopen it so that all this stuff can be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Moore?
Hello, I'm Paul Moore. I'm a county resident, taxpayer, and a former employee of the transportation department here at the school board, and now an employee of a small charter bus company here in the county. And the same subject as this before. A little over a week ago, we had the rowing event at Benderson Park, which is not a school activity in any way or whatever. The school buses from our county were being used to transport out-of-state passengers and athletes to and from the event, basically taking business away from the charter companies. And I'm wondering why. I will say that you brought up the subject about the handicapped and whatnot. The only reason we had one bus there was so that they could be ADA compliant. And I don't understand why, if they're doing the business there, why they weren't ADA compliant. Is there any way that you all can answer whether the why you're doing outside business from the transportation of students?
I can't answer that. Dr. Bowden, do you want to answer it or not?
There are a number of times in which our assistance is requested. We had a number of buses on site for both the national rowing event and the junior national world events, and we do that at the request of the nonprofit that operates the facility.
Thank you.
Do we do that for free or do we charge?
No, they reimburse us for our driver time and mileage.
No, if they reimburse you for your driver's time and mileage, since we're a company here, we have to pay fuel tax, insurance, have to have $5 million worth of insurance at least. Are you paying fuel tax, outside insurance other than being self-insured? Do you bear the costs that we do to be able to compete with you?
As opposed to going back and forth with you now, I'll be happy to meet with you at the conclusion of the meeting.
Okay.
If there are questions I can't answer for you, I'll get you answers.
All right. Basically, with taking the business from the local companies, I don't know if you don't take that work, if you're going to lose employees or have to sell buses or anything like that. Our companies may possibly have to lay off employees, sell assets, possibly go out of business. And if you're going to be going into business against local companies, are you going to start going into air conditioning, plumbing? Are the cafeterias going to start doing catering and so forth?
Mr. Moore,
Okay.
Mr. Moore, this is not really a question and answer time, but as Dr. Bowden said, he will meet with you later after the meeting.
I believe it needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Bob Woods?
All right, first of all, let me start out by saying I'm not a resident of this county. I actually live up in Pinellas County. I'm a 35-year transportation individual. I've run companies in North Carolina. This is about the school board bid. This is about honor and integrity. People voted you into these positions for honor and integrity. Well, you're supposed to be doing this job to protect the people who are not present at that time. But the company that I'm with put in a cancellation policy that somebody got a little twisted about. And you're blackballing the company. But yet you go and you use your county school buses to take the food off of our table. That feel good to you? It's not good to us, okay? We have $5 million worth of insurance. You got $300,000. So if one of those international kids would have gotten hurt, your taxpayers would have been biting the bill for this. Okay, we are running an FMCSA regulatory company. I've run companies in North Carolina, Texas. I've been doing this for a very long time. And I'd say 80 to 90% of the school boards run a pre-hearing to find out what the vendor's concerns are. The last time you guys did it, this phone didn't exist. You guys were still carrying pagers. Okay, where's your honor and integrity there of doing the right thing? Instead, somebody tries to put in a cancellation policy and you blackball them. You blackballed a couple companies for that. You're not going to give them the bid. Yeah, well, that's all fine and good, but you're going to give your tax dollars to a company in Orlando instead of giving it to the companies here who are voting your positions. Think about that for a minute, because you know what? They're voting your positions. You keep doing this and you keep giving it to the outside companies who have to drive 2.5 hours to get here. Now the driver's already been driving 2.5 hours. Now they're going to turn around and drive another 3 hours. Then they're going to drive back another 3. How tired is that driver by that time? Being in this business for 35 years? I'm telling you right now, that driver's tired. Okay, it might not look like it. He or she might be on top of their game, but they're tired. But you know what? The taxpayers here, if you continue to do this, I would suggest to the taxpayers here in Sarasota County to get every one of you off this board. Because you know what? What you're doing is wrong. What you're doing is very wrong. And you should reopen this bid to play on a fair ground, okay? You know, you're looking at age of equipment, insurance. There's a lot of things that we're looking at in an operation of a company, and so are you guys. However, honor and integrity. You're supposed to be representing the people and the kids that are not standing in here. And you're not doing a very good job of it. And I don't even live in this county. I won't move to this county.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Larry Tasman?
Bill, I guess you could say I'm the orchestrator to all this. Okay. Hi, Mrs. Brown. Nice to see you. Dr. Bowden, oh, your son is on the football team this year at Riverview. Just think, Mrs. Johnson called me and said, does Mr. Bowden know that his son may go to
Excuse me, speak into the mic, please.
May go to playoffs this year? Do you know that our drive to Jacksonville last year, we had 5 minutes of time to make sure that those kids were safe and complied with laws? You didn't care about that. You're not addressing that. You're leaving that to the responsibility. You're endorsing companies coming from Orlando, thinking that Carol LaShawn, oh yeah, she should be buying pencils. Sorry, okay? She should be buying pencils. She shouldn't be putting your students in jeopardy, okay? The last time we had a hearing was when, Mr. Schultes was here? She was just graduating college when we had, okay? So I don't know what it's going to take for me to stir up your recognition that we brought along 2 companies in this town. You were lucky enough to have 2 providers all around and all aboard to safely transport your kids. We have had not one accident in all our history, okay? So now you're depending on Mrs. LaShawn saying, well, I hope it'll work. Oh, yes, you're hoping that that company that comes to bring your kid up to Jacksonville will comply. They'll have to put up a driver here. So you think that costs are going to be respected to the bid has a maximum allowable thing. Well, we have buses that we provide for all the schools for $500. Okay, we brought in small team buses. Call the athletic director at Booker High School and ask him, what is he going to say when it comes to, oh my God, now we have to spend $700 on a bus to take our volleyball team to Arcadia? Okay, it's your decision. Live with it, enjoy it. I'm sorry. My daughter says I should retire. What do you think?
Thank you. John McOrd? Sorry, close, but no cigar, right?
That's McAward.
McAward. Okay, thank you.
They're looking for the vowel between the C and the M. It's not there. Is the mic?
It's on.
Can you hear me?
It's on,
Right, thank
yes.
you. Okay. My question to the board is, how much longer do we have to be subjected as citizens to the headlines regarding the incompetence of our current superintendent? Sarasota seems to be competing with Manatee County in a race to the bottom with negative school authority headlines. The initial controversy which brought me to this podium some time ago when the contract for the new superintendent was being negotiated and discussed regarded credible sexual harassment charges brought by 3 women in his previous assignment. 2 of the women took polygraphs, 3 of them. 2 passed. The third one was inconclusive due to nervousness of the subject. The superintendent was never polygraphed and was hired despite the investigation by the attorneys of not clearing him of the charges. Next, we had the John Russo case at Brookside Middle School, where student phone videos of the incident were erased by the administration, and confidential personal information about John was released to the press. This latter issue was referred to arbitration, and recently the attorneys for the school district conceded the case before the arbitrators from Tallahassee. Meanwhile, the disciplinary case against John continues with Tallahassee arbitrators. If the district loses, it will cost tens or hundreds of dollars additional in damages. The Maltby case continues this pattern of duplicity on the part of the superintendent. When did Bowden hear of the charges, see the text and the emails? When did he inform the board? Did he delay any action until his buddy's contract was extended by 1 year? I asked the board, why don't you ask the 3 women who brought the initial charges? Ask John Russo, the Brookside teacher, and ask the woman who accused Mr. Maltby to take polygraphs paid by the school board. And if they show the subjects to be truthful, insist that Bowden, Maltby, and the Brookside principal be tested as well. If the results show that their answers are not honest, offer to settle the open civil cases to stop the drain on school budgets that these cases might force the board to pay, and move to remove Bowden, Maltby, and the Brookside principal from their positions for moral turpitude. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now, may I have a motion on, are there any changes to the consent agenda?
Yes, ma'am. After the agenda was made available to the public, the following items were added. Item 5, approval of minutes from the July 16th and July 23rd school board meeting. Item number 6, the addendum to the instructional classified personnel report. And in addition to new business, item 63 is the July 30th board meeting minutes were added. There were 3 items that were pulled from the agenda after it was made public. Item number 47, 48, 49. These are transportation agreements with Girls Inc. of Sarasota, Boys and Girls Club, and the Laurel Civic Association.
May I have a motion on this item?
Oh, okay. Caroline.
You're supposed to make a motion, and then you discuss it.
Okay.
Would you move?
I move that we approve the amended consent agenda.
Is there a second? Thank you. Under discussion, Bridget Ziegler?
Yeah, I move to, I move that we poll item number 24 just for comment as mentioned before. I don't know if that needs a second, but.
No, you don't.
I second it.
There we go.
I don't know that needs a motion. I think that can just be, if all it is for comment, you can comment on it either now or after either.
I was going to call you after that. I remembered.
All right. Okay, so I will wait. Well, ultimately, I just wanted to pull it for comment. And then
about comment.
Then we'll go to number 4. I'm sorry. It was item number 24 as it pertains to the approval of agreement between Achieve 3000 and the School Board of Sarasota County. I know that there had been some emails of concerns. I see Dr. Cantalupo there. I know Dr. Bowden was included, and I have also spoken to our board attorney, and I believe that there's been also some other discussions separate from other board members. But the topic of data gathering in general in the data world that we live in can provide great benefit, but I will tell you, I know personally it's caused me some concern. So there have been some ongoing discussions between myself, and not specific just to this item, but to some other approvals that we've done in the past. As many people know, we are grateful recipients of grant funds that they tie accountability measurements to that, and therefore data is collected. Chime in if I'm incorrectly saying this, but that is also something that is similar at the state level. I was really appreciative to hear that while we can't control in a world of data breaches, and we are the custodians of this information, we have to take that very seriously. And as we go through, despite if it's our fault or not, when we do contract with third-party organizations and there is a breach, we can also be held accountable. And our job as fiduciaries is to mitigate any of those risks and also protect our students. I know that Dr. Cantalupo and our general counsel have looked through a couple things. One specific item, and again, I don't want to say that this was with every contract, but utilizing our N number versus our students' social security number. And I just think it's really important because this has been an ongoing conversation. I know it's on my radar. I know it's definitely something parents are worried about as well. So I did not want that to just go past without addressing it. And it's certainly not just because I brought it up. I think that this is just an ongoing concern. And I just want to make sure that the public is aware that this is definitely not something that's taken lightly in any shape. So that was my comment.
Mr. Robinson?
My comment had to do with the bus drivers, but I guess since we did,
I had one too.
I know, but so you went right into this instead of skipping over, and I have some questions about, especially because they were talking about the safety of our children. So can I?
I asked you. Talk.
Okay.
I called on you.
Okay. I'm really concerned of people coming up and giving me something saying that their safety is an issue, because now I'm put on notice, and I don't want. I mean, safety should be paramount to us, secondary to I hate to say money, or cancellation fee. I mean, if I don't know the validity of what they're saying, because someone just anybody can go open to the public, anybody can say anything, anybody can hand me anything. But, they certainly they had some certain amount of qualification, level of expertise. This document I was handed, I'm curious. I don't expect you to know, but I'm very curious if these things are true, if the veracity of their claims, do they have any merit?
So I don't have the bid packets in front of me. If we might, why don't I schedule a meeting with Jason Harris, our new Director of Transportation, and Carol LaShawn, and then I'll have a recommendation for you based on my conversation with them.
Thank you.
Did you receive a copy?
Yes, I have that. I received that prior to the meeting, so I've got all the concerns listed here.
Okay. Mrs. Brown?
Yes, that's what my concern was too, especially that we didn't have proof that they're complying with the Jessup-Lunsford Act. Paramount that these drivers need to be run through that, and the criminal background checks, and making sure they have the drug and alcohol. So I too want to make sure that if this was not part of the bid, that we go back and look at those who did get it to look into that, because that concerns me. And I also was, as long as we brought up the data information, I felt very relieved to some degree that we don't share the name, the Social Security number. We share an N number. That's an internal number that only we have when we're sending out some of this other ones, because I know there was a big deal about the Pearson group. Our students weren't included in that data breach. But we also have to keep tight control over what our data says and to make sure. And I know that Mr. Bingswanger and his department has been watching that closely. But for parents, and when we're sharing data, it's usually through an N number. We don't give the information to these other parties. And we're very, very concerned about keeping that data and the identifying information about the students close to our vests.
Mrs. Ziegler?
And I'll just quickly comment on the safety piece. I wanted to clarify that this is in relation to a previous bid that was brought forward with public comment as well.
Correct.
Okay. And I know as a result of some of the concerns, and I appreciate people coming forward to make us aware specifically of the 10-year review of how they do. I think it was a pre-bid meeting or discussion, but that if I recall correctly, and I don't have it in front of me, but I believe that there was some feedback taken and then some changes made as far as for upcoming ones for process. But I would agree with Mr. Robinson and Mrs. Brown as far as the safety precautions to just certainly make sure that we are checking that box. That should be a baseline, and then we have the cancellation if that's the other issue. So when we ever we can get clarification. So appreciate that.
All those in favor of the motion, please vote. If you're not in favor, vote too. Vote against it.
Voting on the motion.
Voting on the motion. Yes.
You've got
as
Madam Chair, you've got Mrs. Goodwin on the phone, so I don't know if you need to do it by voice.
I will. I was going to ask her.
So roll call.
I voted electronically from home.
Voted electronically.
Oh, well, look it.
Okay.
Works when someone's
Wait,
It's not up there.
way ahead of me.
There's 2 up there. There's 3 up there.
That's funny.
I voted.
That's funny.
There you go. There's all up there.
It was Todd.
It was hot. And the motion passes 5-0. Right now we were under new business and item number 63. May I have a motion?
I move that the July 30th, the minutes on the July 30th public hearing to adopt tentative millage budget meeting minutes be approved as presented.
Second.
Mr. Robinson?
My concern has to do with what happened at the meeting last time, and the minutes just simply reflect that we had a discussion of the First Amendment. My fear is that Mr. Wise decides to sue us because we violated his civil rights, we didn't allow him to public comment for whatever reason, and I want the minutes to reflect that, at least, I don't know if Ms. Ziegler wants to, I want the minutes to reflect that I didn't support the gaveling down of Mr. Wise, so if Mr. Wise ends up suing people, he doesn't sue me. So, I have a lot, I don't want somebody suing me, and so I don't believe I did anything that would require anybody to sue me.
I don't hear anybody going to sue anything about from last.
Well, I don't know what Mr. Wise is going to do, so I'm asking the minutes to reflect that I didn't support the gaveling down.
The minutes, this is Jane Goodwin, Eric. The minutes do not reflect of their discussion other than the board approving things. There's always the backup of the actual recording of the meeting that someone can see something from. I said stop, but I didn't stop him. He was allowed to speak. So there was nothing that was done at that time to reflect that I was stopping his free speech, other than I was hoping he wasn't going down a rabbit hole.
Then, Ms.
I really
Goodwin,
think that I really feel that this is something that need not be done. But I take note of your right to do that. So thank you very much.
But then, Mrs. Goodwin, Mr. Lobeck came and spoke, and Mr. Lobeck said derogatory comments about me and Ms. Ziegler. You didn't gavel him down, nor would I want you to gavel him down. And then Mr. Lobeck sat in the audience and spoke from the audience, and you didn't gavel Mr. Lobeck down. So it gives the appearance that you were gaveling people down based upon the content of their speech, not based upon the civility of the speech. And all I'm asking is that my not approval of those actions be related in the minutes. I don't know why anybody on the board would not support me saying, this was a very extraordinary action that you decided to do at the board meeting, and it was an extraordinary event that occurred. And all I'm asking is that it be noted in the minutes that I didn't support that action. So in case this ends up being in some sort of litigation, that there is a record that I didn't support it. That's all I'm asking. I don't see how that costs anybody any problems. I don't see how that would cost anybody any consternation, because I don't. You did things as the board chair. It speaks for the board that put the entire board at liability, and I'm simply asking for the carve out of those people who did not support those actions. I don't see how that's a problem.
Dr. Bowden?
At this point in time, you have a motion in front of you to accept the minutes as presented. I believe it would be appropriate for Mr. Robinson to make a motion to amend the minutes. If that were to gain a second, you would have to vote on that amendment prior to approving the minutes.
I make a motion that we denote in the minutes that Ms. Ziegler and myself did not support the actions of gaveling down Mr. Wise.
Second.
Mrs. Brown, is this on topic or?
It's on topic.
Okay, go ahead.
As we explained earlier, comments aren't normally put in the minutes. I think there were some comments that were added this time. And when we are given the minutes from our staff, basically they're draft minutes. And we can ask changes be made to the draft minutes. You don't have to pull them, as I did when there was some misinformation that was printed in the minutes. I think it was on Jane being made president versus president-elect of the FSBA. There was a factual error. I had that corrected. And that can be done before the minutes are posted. If you wanted to add language to the minutes that weren't there, you could have asked for that change to be made. But I don't think there was ever a time when we had during that meeting that there ever was an approval or disapproval vote on the gavel incident from anyone. And again, that's something that you go back to the record of the minutes to see. But that normally wouldn't even, and not the record of the minutes, the record of the meeting. You listen to what was said in the meeting. But, I mean, Carolyn and I didn't cheer it on either. It wasn't something that, we override what the chair was doing. There was no motion to override what the chair was doing. If you have and then if you want to make an amendment, I would like to see a written amendment that you're going to be offering. But it seems like we're, again, majoring in the minors, making a big issue out of something. There isn't anybody trying to sue us. You made your statement that you didn't agree with it. I don't know why we need to continue pulling the minutes and bisecting the minutes every time. If there's a factual error that needs to be corrected, we can correct them. But we don't normally add comments to the minutes. But, if you feel so pressed that you have to say that when there really was no vote taken, I just wish you would understand more about the process and the procedure, and would try to understand what it is we're trying to tell you about the process and procedure of the minutes and the approval process and when something is put on the agenda. But as far as I know, there wasn't a vote taken on whether or not we agreed with the action of the chair that day.
This is like picking wings off of a fly. This is how minute we're getting. It's absolutely... Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you. There's a process junkie on here or a policy person. I think I would take that hat and wear it with pride. But if I read the current minutes as they state, and it says discussion ensued regarding impact fees and the freedom of speech of citizens during the hearing of citizens portion of a board meeting. And yes, while I believe if I go back to my certain time that I wanted to add something to the minutes, and it was my personal opinion that it rose to the level of significance, and I believe during the hearing of citizens last time, there was in fact a interruption. I know I made point of order, although then it continued on. I know Mr. Robinson mentioned his concern. I certainly shared my concern. I know it's been a conversation now in the community. I am not suggesting that other board members also supported it or did not, but I do think adding the objection of that notion is, quite frankly, not, it shouldn't, if it's important, and I believe it does rise to a significant topic, we can merely vote on it, move on, and not spend more time. I mean, that's how I would say let's find a compromise.
Mr. Harvey, Mr. Harvey.
Well, the minutes need to reflect motions and actions taken. The board can certainly, that's the kind of the minimum standard that you must do. If you want to add more, the board can add more. It's not required to add more. That's your discretion.
I would prefer not to add more because we're not required to do it. And if anybody has a question, they could go online. This is all archived. You can get a disc or video, and it's all archived. I mean, everything we say. So that's perfectly would cover you for anything because it's archived. So you could go and pull a file and say, here's proof. I didn't vote for that. I mean, go ahead, Eric, Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, see,
No, you're under him. I gotcha.
The issue is that we are talking about people's constitutional rights. The people's constitutional rights are not pulling wings off butterflies. And to equate people's right of redress of the government minimizes that right. To say that putting in that somebody becomes president of elected organization should be in there and somebody's right of free speech gets minimized, that's acceptable putting we didn't vote on someone being president of a school of FSBA. Okay, that was not an action. That wasn't a vote. But somehow or another, that rises to the level of something that should put in the minutes. This has to do with somebody's rights being taken away. And Ms. Brown, you at that meeting made comments that led to believe that you supported that action by commenting about it's not right that people shouldn't bring their concerns to the open to the public. Mr. Wise can come up and say whatever he wants pretty much whatever he wants to the open to the public. He is free to recite the Constitution if he wanted to. He has that right to do that. And so to minimize this, to say this is a minor thing, this is major into the minors, that's my entire point. My entire point is that we are minimizing people's rights, that we are somehow they're subjugating the citizens' right to redress their government in a minimal way. This is not pulling wings off a butterfly. The right to redress your government is a very fundamental right of the citizens of America. So is the right of free speech. That is a fundamental bedrock of our Constitution. And to minimize those rights that those people have is missing the entire point. I mean, these are
Madam Chair.
pretty big issues. And this was an extraordinary event. This wasn't.
I hear you.
This was not a normal event that occurred. And I'm simply asking, and it doesn't cost you guys anything. It doesn't put you out one iota to allow me.
No more cards.
Well, actually we have a.
There's a motion on the floor. No cards.
New amendment.
I just want to say, I'm going to bring my flag out and wave it too. And I'll say, if it's so important, you want that in there, God bless America, let's add that in. And but I also then will be asking to add in comments under the comments that were made inaccurately during the public comment today that were saying that there was 3 polygraphs taken, he was found guilty, and this. I'm going to reserve the right to make those corrections to the statements that were made also. So let's go for it. I don't want to argue about this anymore. I just hope it doesn't become a regular event.
Mrs. Goodwin?
Well, I would just like to say one thing. He was allowed to speak, Eric. I didn't stop him from speaking. I thought he had said the word sexual. That was my concern, was that we were going down a rabbit hole. I had heard him speak at 3 meetings. Do you remember that we had a student who sat on our board next to Dr. Bowden, who was so upset about a hearing of citizens last spring that she had to collect herself in the back room and remove herself from our board meeting because she felt attacked by one of the citizens who was speaking. That's why we have now moved our citizen station to the other side of Mr. Hardy. So if I'm more sensitive to that, please forgive me. From now on, I have thought maybe we need 2 hearing of citizens, a hearing of citizens on business at the regular time, and then another hearing of citizens at the end of the meeting where they can say anything. Hernando is doing that, Pasco is doing that, Hillsborough is doing that. Do we need to do that? Maybe we should think about having 2 separate hearings of citizens. But far be it from me, although you all have cast me in the public over the last couple of weeks on Facebook, along with the teachers union, of being against public free speech, which I am not. So I'm willing to let anyone say anything that they want to at the next school board meeting, but don't recast me as being a villain and not allowing people to speak, because that's not my intention, or never would be my intention.
Please vote.
What is the wording that we're voting on?
I think Mr. Hardy wants to speak first.
No, I was just going to say you're voting first on the motion to amend the motion.
Yes.
I want to know what that amendment
Robinson's
says.
amendment.
The amendment is to include in the motion that in the minutes that Ms. Ziegler and I did not agree with the gaveling down of Mr. Wise.
And that sort of infers that the rest of us did, but okay.
If you want to add your name.
No, you go ahead.
You made comments,
no,
Ms. Brown.
Go ahead.
Ms. Brown, you made comments about this isn't the place to put it. You want me to add your name?
Okay.
No, hold on.
Enough.
If she wants to add it, I'll add her.
Okay. If we don't stop, I'm going to recess the board.
So you've got before you the motion is to amend the motion to approve the minutes. So you're voting now on the amendment offered by Mr. Robinson.
Do we have to allow public comment?
No.
No, because this is part of the issue.
All those in favor of the amendment by Mr. Robinson say yes.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
No, see?
Okay, now you have before you the motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Oh, we can vote. Okay.
Okay.
We can vote online for that now.
Vote on it.
Nope.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's up.
You
It's up.
can't.
Okay.
You're voting to approve the minutes as amended.
Yes. And the vote is 5-0. It passes.
Yay.
Okay. That ends the board meeting for tonight. The next monthly work session is Tuesday, August the 20th, and the next monthly board meeting is Tuesday, August the 20th at 3 p.m.
Comments?
The next workshop is Tuesday, August the 20th at 10 probably, and then the meeting is at 3. Not to speak. We are adjourned.
No, you didn't
wait.
have comments.
Mrs. Brown.
I just want to remind our teachers are back to school this week and getting their classrooms set up. And we were at an event last week that welcomed back some of the teachers. That there was all excitement, and we heard from the our teacher of the year, Shane Swayze, who was from Oak Park, and he talked about how he reached out to these kids. But basically, it was a very positive way of getting our teachers back together before that training session they had. And our students will be coming back this coming Monday. If any parents out there have not signed up their kids yet, because I think I was at Philippi earlier, and they had a whole bunch of new students signing up just this past week. So if you haven't already signed up with your intention of where you're going to school yet, please do. And I know there's going to be excitement at the bus transportation. They're going to be sending out those bus drivers between 6 and 6:15. We're going to be rah-rah at the stations for them. And I know there's going to be some activities at all the schools. And the principals that we've been working all summer and basically all last year about having positive team working, that we can get great teams working at all of our schools, working together to get our kids successful next year. And I'm just so excited about the new year starting, and I know my grandkids are too, and over there helping my daughter get her classroom set up. But school starts on Monday.
Mrs. Ziegler.
I was kind of going to say the same thing. Well, first I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Dumas and the facilities team, because summer is when you guys work your rear ends off to be ready for the beginning of school. And as we know, my biggest thing is making sure people know the rules when it comes to buses and bus stops and not flying through while students are loading. And wishing everyone a good luck for this incoming school year. And this will be my first year as my daughter attending as a kindergartner, so I am joining in the anxiety and excitement of many, many parents in Sarasota County. So looking forward to it.
I'd like to thank staff, because I know that I've sent out a couple of emails this weekend thinking that you would get back to me on Monday, and you got back to me over the weekend. So that shows your true dedication to this community and this school system. Thank you very much, both of you, for doing that. I appreciate it.
So I'd have to thank about 4 people.
We're adjourned.
So we're good for September 21st?
Huh?
September 21st, 3:30.
3:30.
Bridget,
All right.
where's she going to be going?
Fruitville.
Fruitville, great.
I thought she was going to Bayhaven.
Huh?